I'm not sure how I feel about this episode. There was some stuff I liked, there was some stuff I didn't like. But I guess we'll have to talk through it together in order to figure it out. All right, here we go. Hi, all you BC WrestlePod nerds out there, and welcome to another rendition of the Dynamic Dominance Trio, the DDT reviews, your weekly WWE NXT reviews, and we are here to review Spring Breakin' Week 1, Night 1. They interchanged what they were calling it. I was like, you should just stick with Week 1. It's fine. It's fine. But we are here to review Night 1 of Spring Breakin', the 2 weeks special for NXT. And this happened to take place on Tuesday, April 23rd, 2024. I am El Jefe, also known as Mikey around these parts. I am the boss, the Grand Poobah, the CEO, the face that kind of runs the place. You know, I try at least. And joining me this evening is one of my other co hosts, Mr. A to Z himself, Andrew. Welcome. We got some stuff to discuss.
Yeah, we do.
Unfortunately, due to some really crazy circumstances that is happening, our other co-host Will unfortunately could not be here tonight. But he sends his regards, and I have his statement about the whole entire night that I will read at the very end. So shout out to Will for still giving us some content even when he can't be here. But let's not waste any time. Let's just jump into this. I was very surprised because normally for like these 2 week specials, we get like an intro package by some superstar who's be like, welcome to spring. Nope, we didn't get any of that. We're just like, all right, kids, we're just going to jump in because we got too much to do. I love the comparison someone tweeted the other day. Raw's like, hey, USA Network, is it okay if we go over a minute of our allowed time? Because, we got this thing going on. Okay, cool. And then compared to NXT to USA Network, nah, F you. It's like, we're starting this championship match like 6 minutes before we're supposed to be over. And it's just like, we're going to go over even if it takes us 10 minutes. It's like, fuck. I was like, all right, NXT. They're just like, yeah, we don't care. We're gonna take however long we need to. I was like, okay, that's kind of baller. But no entrances, no video package because we literally just jump into our first match of the evening. This is the NXT Women's Championship Triple Threat, which I was like, well, dang, we're starting off with this match. All right, let's see what happens. And this triple threat saw Lyra Valkyria, Tatum Paxley, and our champion Roxanne Perez going at it to, try to walk out as NXT Women's Champion. If I'm going to be honest, this was actually probably my favorite match of the whole entire evening from beginning to end. And this match, when the bell rang, we just stayed in third gear the whole entire time. It just started, and then they went at it. I'm also going to be honest, I feel like this is actually Tatum's best match, and she's improved so much, and it kind of shows in this match. I thought this was an awesome match. Andrew, how do we feel about this opening match, which was crazy that it was for the women's title?
Well, I'll start at the beginning. The fact that there was no entrance for this triple threat women's NXT world title match was ridiculous. We opened up with a segment with the three GMs talking, which we could have just cut that whole thing out and actually given these women their entrance to come in and make it feel like if we're not going to get a intro package for Spring Breakin', at least we could start off with 3 bomb entrances from the 3 of these people. I agree. I thought this was great. I thought Tatum looked really, really good. That 450 splash that she hit was like super clean, and I didn't think I saw her going to the top. Didn't think she was going to go for the 450, and then she went for it and hit it. It was great. There was some really good back and forth action. It had some of the normal kind of like triple threat issues of like stutter stepping a couple places, like transitioning between different people fighting. I noticed something, and this is something that I'll bring up later too, is Roxanne's gear was like falling apart the whole match. Like one boot was like completely coming apart. Her arm pieces were coming apart. She had pieces coming off of her shorts. And I was just like, what is happening? Like, that's your champion. Why is their shit falling apart? Like, it was weird. But all in all, yeah, I thought we opened the night with a really, really strong match, and we ended the night with a really strong match. They were probably my two top matches. I think I may have enjoyed this one a little more just because of the interactions between the three of them. And yeah, I was super impressed by Tatum. I mean, I've already seen what Lyra and Roxanne can really do. This is only the second match I think I've seen Tatum wrestle in, and the first one was when her and Lyra faced the Kabuki Warriors. So, all in all, it was a good opening, but there were a lot of production and programming issues that I had with this night, and I'll talk about it as we go along. But the fact that they had no entrance was like the beginning and should have been a big sign to me that there were going to be issues.
I was also mad because I watched this live on my television. We went immediately into picture in picture. I'm like, are you kidding me? I was like, we barely started. Why are we going in picture in picture? I was so upset. I'm like, whatever, fine. So, I mean, Lyra didn't get pinned. Tatum did. Well, Tatum almost had Lyra, and then Roxanne came in and stole the pin. So, swooped in and took, the pin, and Roxanne Perez is still your NXT Women's Champion. I'm very interested to see what happens in this draft on Friday and Monday, because this also felt like, hey, so we can't do anything too crazy because who knows where everyone's going to end up. Though I feel that NXT has a better chance of figuring out who's going to be called up than main roster does, so who knows what happens. I thought this was a really good match. This is probably my favorite match of the whole evening from beginning to end. And then we get into, how do I put this nicely? We get into a long haul of a lot of things. So let's just do this. So backstage, we're in the women's locker room where Thea is chilling with Fallon Henley and Kalani Jordan, talking about how she's upset at JC for what happened last week, but she gets her match against her later. She talks about how she loves having good people to surround her. And then who comes in to spoil the mood? But Miss Jada Parker, who calls out Fallon Henley, telling Fallon she needs to stop playing hero and to mind her own business for some reason. And then Fallon shoves her, and then a fight breaks out, which sets up their match later in the evening. I was like, did we really need this? No, not really. No.
No. There were so many promos on this show, and
this next the 40 minutes was a lot of promos,
and there were things like this, like, oh, we need to have this little promo in here so then that way we can have an excuse to have this match. Just have the match. They're both really good wrestlers. They're both trying to get to the top of division. There's a new women's title coming out. Just have the match. We don't need to have a promo to shoehorn in a reason for them to have a match.
Or do a social video. Jada Parker be like, look, I'm like, Fallon, I saw what you did last week, and I'm not about it, so let's fight. I'm like, baller, that's good. We don't need to waste minutes setting up a match. We're going to get 20 minutes later. Ooh, I was so mad at this. Not mad at the women. I was just mad at the choice of whoever decided to put this together. I'm like, you fail, you get an F, good day. But I was excited for what we got next. So we got a little promo. Well, first, the family makes their entrance. Go to commercial. Then we come back for a segment that Tyreek Igwe and Tyson DuPont are making their debut next week on night 2 of Spring Break. And I was just like, more tag teams, please. And especially, we got some big boys. I'm here for big boy tag teams. Yeah, I'm excited. If you haven't seen Level Up, audience, you need to go check out their matches on Level Up because they are so good. I'm going to be happy to be like, I knew them when they were on Level Up. Same thing how I said with Javon Evans. I knew Javon when he was on Level Up before going to NXT television.
Yeah, being someone who just recently discovered Level Up, I've been watching their backlog of episodes, and damn, there's some good talent on there. The way that they structure the matches is really good, and I'll be honest, I enjoy their commentary team a bit more than the main NXT show commentary team, but I think it's because I don't feel like they're not taking any of the spotlight away from what we get when in the ring, which I feel like sometimes we get with the people who comment on, our regular NXT show. It's a little much sometimes, but Level Up, yeah, it's a really great show, and some incredible wrestlers in there. I'm excited to see more and more of them come up.
Oh, I'm excited for them. And shout out to Blake Howard and Byron Saxton, who are our commentators for Level Up. I'm like, that is what I want to see all the time. I'm like, they made Level Up so much more fun to watch. And I need people to watch Level Up too. Like, don't sleep on it because it's actually really, really good to see some talent. Level Up is where I found out that Eddie Thorpe was back from
Yep.
injury with because they didn't tell me that. I was like, ooh, hi Eddie, glad you're back on television. But again, I'm excited for Tyreek and Tyson next week.
Hmm.
And I'm a sucker for like old school classic tag team. We're gonna wear jeans and we're gonna kick your face in with these Timberland boots. I'm like, I'm
Yep.
here for this. It's gonna be fantastic. So now we get the No Quarter Catch Crew entrance, and we can officially begin our 6-man tag team match. The Family, being represented by Tony D'Angelo, Stax, and Luke Cristofino, taking on No Quarter Catch Crew of Charlie Dempsey, still needed a haircut, Miles, and Damon Kemp. I thought this was an okay match. I don't like how we got here. I thought it was fine. I don't like that Charlie Dempsey got pinned, so it's like, oh, so Tony's gonna get this Heritage Cup, right? Why did we take it off Noam Dar to begin with?
I'm sure there were plans when there were 4 members of No Quarter Catch Crew, and I'm sure things had to change with that. But yeah, this. First of all, what's with the family's wrestling gear? You
What
have
is
Crucifino in half a suit.
bro?
You had
He looks like an Italian Roman Reigns. What is
yeah,
happening?
you had Tony in like sweatpants or joggers with an A shirt on, and then you've got Stacks in actual wrestling gear. Like, what? Why
We
could they
need to
not?
present ourselves in a united front, you
Yeah,
guys.
if they're gonna wear street clothes, all wear street clothes. If they're gonna wear wrestling gear, all wear wrestling gear. Like, pick a pick a theme style to go with the whole thing. Also, Luke Luca Crucifino's entrance gear with the like, I mean, it's total male stripper look with the vest, the no
Now
sleeves,
coming
blue
to the
shirt, and the tie.
stage.
Yeah, the consigliere. It had some good moments of action, but neither team seemed particularly cohesive. Like, they weren't working like good tag teams. I will say that Tony was clearly on another level from everybody else in the ring, and I think they just need to let him win that Heritage Cup and let him actually do something with it. Because I think, like we've talked about in other promotions, it instead of having them chase the title that already has, meaning behind it or whatever, has status, like the NXT title, put the other titles on people that can bring status to those titles. And I think giving the Heritage Cup to Tony, you could have him just like run over people. You can play with the whole family dynamic, just like they kind of did with, Metaphor and No Quarter Catch Crew, of like manipulating the rules a little bit. But we could actually bring some importance to that and like kind of bring it back up. But yeah, this was definitely a low point of the night for me.
Yeah, this was not my favorite match, and I did not think highly of it because it was messy. I'm like, this is a 6-man between 3 teams that are supposed to be units, but it's more like we got a bunch of single people in
Yeah.
the room together in a unit without really training them. And I'm gonna channel the spirit of Will through here because I'm gonna talk about the fashion. I agree with you. The family, you are a unit. We need to pick a theme. We need to pick some sort of color. We got to be a united front here. Like, you can't just look like a bunch of individual folks that got thrown together and it's like, hey, let's make a band. I was like, oh, I was so mad. I was so angry. This is yeah. I'm done talking about it because then I got other places to feed my wrath in. Like this next promo segment, Baron Corbin has a gift basket, and then in walks Lexus King, and basically all this did was set up a match later down the line. I'm just like, why do we need this? At first, I was laughing because I was like, Baron Corbin wanting to give a gift basket to Braun. I thought, okay, this is a funny bit. And then Lexus King walked in. I was like, his barber needs to be fired. Forget the beard line. He's walking out looking like Mineta from My Hero Academia with that little bob on the top of his head. I'm like, his barber needs to be put on trial.
Yeah, this was weird. It's saying something that Baron Corbin came across more charismatic in this promo.
And Lexus did.
It yeah, it was weird. And it just bums me out because I'm like, dude, just keep Baron with Braun. They don't need to stay on NXT. Like, yeah, I don't know. It was weird. And again, this was just like the Jada Parker, Fallon Henley thing. We did this just to set up a match later.
Like 20 minutes
And
later.
yeah, and the thing is like this seemed to make even less sense to have a match than the other one. But yeah, like this, we didn't need this. Like we could have just set up a match with. You could have just told us there was going to be a match between Baron Corbin and Lexis King, or we could have just not had the match. But yeah, it was all
We
silly.
digress.
Yeah.
So after this, we do get into that said match that got set up 20 minutes earlier because we have Jada Parker and Fallon Henley kind of go at it for a little bit. So apparently, Jada Parker's going to stick with the hip attack as her finisher, which I'm like, if you're going to do it, you need to run full force with that thing to make it look impactful.
Yeah.
Because my biggest issue with Jada is she doesn't throw. And obviously, you don't want to throw your whole body weight into it because you can actually damage someone that way. But girl, I know you're not supposed to talk about other people, but look at tape from Toni Storm and how she does it. Like, look at tape of how other superstars do the hip attack because there are ways to make it look devastating because she runs full force, but then she turns at a weird time to kind of soften the blow because she doesn't want to run full force. I'm like, girl, just go through with it. Or position yourself where if you're not comfortable hitting them with your hip. I've seen some people do the hip attack where they raise their leg a little bit so it's like thigh hitting the head instead, which will soften the impact. I'm not an expert when it comes to the physicality of things, but I have seen some stuff, and what I know about the anatomy, the thigh hurts a lot less than the actual butt sometimes, especially when your head gets ricocheted off of the turnbuckle. I thought this was fine. I kind of feel that Fallon shouldn't have lost here. But, I digress. I love Jada. I love her personality, but we got to work on that finisher still.
Yeah, that finisher is not good. They called it like a teardrop hip attack or something, and it's just there's more impact in everything she's done so far to set up the move than the actual move itself.
I hate that it's called the teardrop. I was like, there's some slightly undertones we don't need to talk about, but that's for another podcast.
Well, and I agree. Like Fallon losing this, I think was the wrong call. If you didn't want Jada to lose, then it shouldn't have been Jada against Fallon.
Jada beat anybody else.
Yeah, like we didn't need the promo to set this up. First of all, Fallon's entrance in the first 2 minutes of this match were picture in picture. Like, what are we doing? Like, who's programming this? Like, it was such a slap in the face for me for these two competitors, but also it shows you what they thought of this match. Like, the things that are going to set the tone for this match, you're going to put in picture in picture. Like, it was so ridiculous that happened. Like, we should have just done a commercial instead of the Baron Corbin and Lexis King promo and just have an actual commercial break. Come back to it. We didn't need these like little promos to set these matches up. It just feels forced and underdeveloped. And we had more issues here. Fallon's boots were coming apart. The toes were peeling off the top. And Jada's hair fell off at the end. Like, what is happening with this show? What is going on with people's gear? Like, it's all coming apart. Like,
It's literally an episode of The Muppets where the show goes off the rails.
yeah. And it was all right, but there were several hiccups in the match between the two of them. And it's just kind of a bummer because I really like both of these performers. Jada, even though she's relatively green, super strong, super entertaining. She should definitely have a different move than that. She's too strong to have something like that. Set her up with something that looks dominant.
Yeah, it was a thing that happened. Fallon should have won, but Jada Parker is standing tall by the end of this. And we move on. We get our NXT Underground contract signing next. I was a little mad at this because I liked how it started, but I hated how we ended this thing. So Natty and Carmen are walking in. They get their entrance. Natty gets her entrance with Carmen, walking with her. Lola comes in. She gets her entrance music. And then everybody has a seat. Ava, states that we're here to sign this contract. My favorite line of this whole entire thing came from Lola when she told Natty, she's just like, because Natty brought up the same thing that everybody brings up when it comes to Lola. She's good at shaking her ass on Instagram. But my favorite line of this whole thing came from Lola. This is telling Natty, look, I might shake my ass on Instagram, but I can still beat your ass in front of everybody else. I'm like, that is the comeback I need to see, Lola. Grit your teeth, girl. Take pride in the fact that you can shake your butt on Instagram, but also you can kick people's teeth in as well. A deadly combination. Love to see it. And then we get the moment that made me happy, and then literally 10 seconds later, I had a bone to pick with Shawn Michaels. Because Lola says that Carmen is a choice for Natty to have in her corner and sparring partner and whatnot and all this. But Lola's training partner is someone of a top tier caliber, and she's going to be in her corner. And we find out that this person is your first two-time NXT Women's Champion, Miss Shayna Baszler herself. And I don't know about you, Andrew, but I got up off of my couch and I was screaming bloody murder of how excited I was. I'm like, oh my gosh, the Queen of Spades is back. Let's go. And then Jada gets on the mic. She talks her smack, which is, I love to see it. And she even says, she's like, all I have to do is look at you two and you'll get knocked over. I don't got to do much. And then Shawn Michaels is, we're having an issue with you and we're going to fight right now. Because you had Carmen not even believably punch Shayna to knock her down. Like, this was a whole mess.
She threw a kick. She threw a big old roundhouse kick that hit her. And at first, the way Shayna took it, I thought she was gonna like no sell it. Like she backed up, but then she like did the like stunned fell down
It's like,
thing.
all right.
But yeah, no way. Both Shayna and Lola are like smoking these two if they're really fighting. Like no question about it. But
this brawl was whack.
yeah, no, it should have been way more intense, you know. But yeah, I was just like, that's the most unbelievable thing I've seen so far, and I just hope that it means we're gonna get to see Lola like really come out on top in the match next week.
I feel that she has more to lose if she does not win next week. Natty does not need to win. The boat does not need to win. Okay, this Lola Vice needs to win this. She has to win this because if not, I know me and Will are gonna fight next week with Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels, this is my bone to pick.
Sail away.
We don't even need the boat to sink. We just need her to go to a different port because she's no longer able to dock at Lola Station and whatnot. Shawn Michaels, this is the last thing I'll say to you. I have a bone to pick with you. How you gonna have commentary introduce Shayna Baszler as your first two-time NXT champion, and then you make her look like a punk by getting kicked in the face like that? I was just like, damn, Shawn Michaels, not even NXT has respect for Shayna Baszler anymore. I'm mad at you. How dare you? Here's hoping we get a redemption where Shayna Baszler just takes out Carmen next week and starts punching people left and right. Honestly, I kind of want to see Shayna get drafted to NXT and kind of stay there for a little bit because I feel that Shayna doesn't need a championship, but I feel like Shayna can work over a lot of these girls very well and give them a run for their money, which would be great.
Hell, just have Shayna go there to go after that North American title because she's like, I just want to have that on my belt. Like, you know, in my case too, I got the NXT one twice. I want to get that, North American one too. Like, just go.
Seriously, honestly, I would love to see Shayna do a little run with that if she gets drafted to NXT. You know, I didn't really have a place to put this, so I'm just going to insert this here because on commentary and on NXT this week, we did get confirmation when the next PLE for NXT is. Battleground, which was supposed to be taking place Sunday, May 26th in Savannah, Georgia, is no longer happening. So that's not happening. They moved it to Sunday, June 9th, and it's going to be NXT. It's now called NXT Battleground Las Vegas because where is it going to be held? It's going to be held at the UFC Center in Las Vegas. Andrew, do you want to tell the listening audience what you texted me about, you were in bigger venues than that?
Yeah, apparently part of the thing that people were worried about was UFC has done shows there with no audience, but the capacity for that space is like 500 people. That's so small. Like, I've worked in community theaters, I've worked in black box theaters that have bigger seating areas than that. That's crazy. I mean, who knows? Technically, all NXT has to do is they'll just get their screens to have the video people and pipe in the sound so it actually sounds like there's more.
Gosh, when I heard that's where it was going to be, I was just like, it's giving me pandemic era, and I'm not here for it. But are we still going to watch Battleground? Yeah, of course. We got to cover all the PLEs and PPVs here, but I'm going to hold my breath. have 2 months to build to that thing, so we'll see what matches we get there. We go from this contract signing to this really weird outside of NXT segment with Ridge Holland and Shawn Spears. I was just like, NXT, I need you to let me know. Is Shawn's I thought Ridge Holland was retired, but now he's not. We lost the plot again, Andrew, and I'm like upset. I was like, y'all changed your minds so quick.
Yeah. I feel like we actually got back to the plot for this. Like, I feel like before the Ridge Holland retiring, before getting Joe Gacy involved, all of that kind of stuff, this is the promo that should have come next after the Ridge Holland Shawn Spears match. We should have got this. This should have been the next step in the story. So by the time we got here, we actually had a cohesive story and we would have had more promos, a potential match, things like that built up. But we got so sidetracked by I don't know what they were doing with all of that stuff that it taken us to get here. And now any momentum that you had going into this is kind of stalled, you know? Shawn Spears came in with some great momentum when he had those promos that were coming up as like a surprise to who could be there, and then he appeared. He looked good. He won his first 2 matches, and then they screwed up his, whole approach with Ridge Holland. They had him lose against Dijak for some reason for Dijak to win his shot that he already had to face Oba Femi in a triple threat match. So yeah, I have no idea what's going on, but it's like way to not properly use anybody in this.
This has been a weird part. It's been a weird journey. This was the long about way to get to where we wanted to. I'm like, we could have just, not have Ridge do this whole in-ring retirement thing. Honestly, I'm so frustrated with this. This is the other thing that frustrates me. So we get our beach brawl match next, right? So first, you get Blair Davenport's entrance.
There was a backstage promo that took place before this. Tag team promo that was the weirdest thing. It was where all the teams were in there talking about how they're upset that these AOP is coming down, these main roster teams are coming in, which was super funny because if you noticed, they were all talking about it. And I think Joaquin Wilde was like standing there in the middle and he was like texting or something, and then he stopped and he was like looking around, and I was like, are they
talking about me? Oh, okay.
Yeah. I was like, are they gonna play to the fact that LWO is technically on the main roster?
Well, okay, so we'll talk about this before we get to our match, because technically, at least on what I watched on live television, they had Blair come in, and then we got Final Testament, then this thing, then we got Souls. So I'm trying to do the thing that you want me to, Andrew.
Oh, no, I missed Blair's entrance then. That's why. I didn't think they gave Blair an entrance.
Oh, that's right. You didn't. You probably did. You didn't watch you didn't watch the television. I did, because on TV they had Blair come out first. Then we cut to commercial. When we come back, we got the Final Testament's pre-tape promo, which is, a thing, basically telling us that AOP are going to come from the titles. I think this is the first time in a while that I heard Paul Ellering talk, which, look, this is a hot take. I like Paul Ellering, but I know some folks who do not because of certain things. However you feel, totally okay. Just keep it, PC in the comment section. I think having him as the mouthpiece for AOP is good. I think it's okay. It worked when it was Black and Gold era, so why not do this? Don't fix what's not broken. Which then goes into the tag team thing, because I'm looking at this, I was like, minus Idris and Malik and Axiom and Nathan, all the other tag teams or main roster tag teams in this thing, I was like, damn, we kind of dwindled in the NXT tag team division, didn't we? But my favorite thing is that Malik and Idris are trying to keep Brinley's positively message going, and then they break a mirror. I'm like, everyone's looking at them like they committed a crime. I was like, that's 7 years of bad luck, my dude. It's about to get worse.
And it was so weird too, because the way it happened though, I legit thought it was an accident. I thought they were doing it and he actually knocked it over, and they were like, okay, let's just go with it, because everyone was so awkward about it, and it felt like it was going somewhere with the whole Good Brothers coming in. I almost called them the Good Hands. The Good Brothers coming in and being like, yeah, those main roster teams coming in here, da-da-da-da-da. I thought they were going to go somewhere with that. And then I'm happy that they maybe focused on those two, because I really like them as a tag team and I love what they're doing as a little mini faction. But yeah, it was super weird. That though the fact that that was between the two entrances, that does make the beginning of the next match actually make a little more sense for me.
Just like you got, yeah, because then we get Sol Ruka's entrance where she walks in with this big old surfboard with her name on it. And then we officially get the start of our next match. This is a beach brawl match, Blair Davenport versus Sol Ruka. I mean, so me and Andrew are gonna differ just a tiny bit. Was this absolutely stupid? Yes. Were there some spots that were kind of silly? Yes. For me as El Jefe, did I enjoy this match? Absolutely, because sometimes I like my stupid matches. However, I do wish that we kind of weren't so gimmicky with stuff because I'm going to compare this match compared to the last 2 week special gimmick match that we had, which was Roxanne and Kiana James in that Devil's Playground match back at Halloween Havoc. And I'm going to compare the two. While both of these matches were gimmicky and hokey, I feel that Roxanne versus Kiana in that Devil's Playground match was actually more intense because the things that happened, Kiana like DDT'd Roxanne into the plastic slide, which looks very brutal. Then we had Roxanne run and use the swing set as momentum to kick Kiana in the face. And then Roxanne went full like Braveheart because she took a piece of the wooden fencing and tried to stab Kiana with it, which was fun to watch. I feel like this was more like a very cartoony version. This is like a Looney Tunes, Tiny Toons version of a gimmick match because Blair, poor Blair, I love Blair. I was like, she gets my heart in this one because she was trying to sell everything, like being stuck in the inner tube at one point and getting thrown around. But you gotta admit, Andrew, that visual is kind of funny to watch. And
Yeah,
then Soul like just being the bully on the playground, like throwing a dodgeball and a football at Blair. Then we got the pool spot where she buried Blair underneath her surfboard and stood on her and began to do surfing moves, which is kind of stupid. I will say though, then the two spots that happened towards the end and the finish here were probably the best things. Like that table spot though, when she backpack dropped her onto the table looked brutal. And then the soul snatcher from the ropes, man. Like it's just fantastic. I enjoyed the hokiness of this match. Now, Andrew, rip it to pieces.
why are WWE NXT no DQ matches so soft? Like, I mean, I know, especially the other promotion that we watch that's kind of on the same level as NXT. That's Thursday nights. Their matches like this go hard, like, and they'll do them on weekly shows, and they go hard, like super hard. And we saw some on a recent pay per view that was didn't even have that many weapons involved, and it still had more intensity. Like, and it's nothing against these performers because I actually gave this a solid B for this match because those things aside, it was a good match. But there was so many things like they were throwing beach balls at each other, and it's like it's a beach ball. It's not even a dodgeball. Like the football was like, okay, you hit someone with that in the face, that's gonna hurt. But like she hit her in that like little kiddie pool thing that was just full of balls, and I was like, at least put like water or something in there, make it interesting.
Somebody should have gotten shot with the super soaker.
Yeah, but it just like every time I watch one of these matches from WWE or NXT, it just feels like they're like, okay, but can we make it not so violent? And it's like what you're having these stipulations, and it just makes them come off as soft. Like my problem with this too was that these two could have just had a regular match, and it could have been such a good match. And I know that because we literally got this from them like 2 weeks ago. So I feel like in this case, all the like gimmicky things just it added stuff that didn't need to be there, and the stuff that they could have used in place of it wasn't there. Like at one point, Blair set up a surfboard and then threw Soul into it, but the surfboard was up against the stairs and the steel post. I was like, you put up like a foam surfboard in front of metal. Like it would have hurt her more to not put the surfboard there. What are you doing? And then the fact that we got that spot through the table that looked really good. Blair countering that cartwheel DDT, just pushing her, over the railings was great. Also, that fireman's carry into a power bomb that Soul hit on Blair. I was like, that's an awesome move. Use that. She should use that as either an alternative finish to the Soul Snatcher, or at least as like a special move, like a signature move. Awesome. It's just always surprised. It shocks me how strong Soul is, because she's super athletic, like super, agile and fast. Does a lot of creative things, but at the same time, she hits stuff that I'm like, damn, she's strong.
Those workout lessons with Tyler Bate are paying off, because I'm like, this is the female version of Tyler Bate.
Yeah,
I was like,
and except she's
athletic
like a
and
foot
fast,
taller.
but yeah.
Which, speaking of, we saw Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne earlier. I did not
we
realize how much taller Pete Dunne is than Tyler Bate. I thought they
Tyler
were like
is
the same
hella
height.
short.
Yeah,
Tyler is hella short.
he's all
And
thigh.
literally, he's like, you look at him, like, he looks super skinny, and then, like, it's like normal, normal, normal. Bam! I was like, bro, you got the chicken thumbs. You got, like, drumstick thighs, bro. Like, what is happening? But
But yeah, all in all, I thought it was a fun match in spots. These two are really great. I quickly became a fan of Soul, and I think she's going to be in that top title picture when we're determining who's going to be the first North American champion.
yeah, I think it's awesome. Honestly, and I'm going to bring this up again when we talk about our main event, but with the draft happening, I think now we're entering into the, dare I say, 3.0 era of NXT now, because now a bunch of the heavy hitters that have been carrying NXT for the last year and a half, 2 years now, are all probably getting called up at some point. So now we have new faces with NXT champions, and like all the time and effort are going to be building said folks up, which we'll talk about when we get to the main event. But we cut backstage really quickly to see one of our two individuals who is in this main event. See, I like the first, I'll be honest, I like the first half of this promo, but I felt the second half kind of dragged it on a little bit. Look, was it corny as all heck to have Trick be talking to his mama on the phone? Like, yes. However, I thought there is a bit of endearment to Trick for all this, because look, as a person of color, and Andrew, I'm sure you can attest to this too, like, especially with African American families and Latino families, our mothers are the world to us. So I thought that was a sense of endearment. I was like, yeah, Mama Trick is also wanting her son to win this thing. I'm like super happy for it. And I thought, had we cut it right there after he hung
That's
up
the
the phone with Mama
purpose.
Trick, I thought, you know what? As corny as it was, I thought that would have made me like it. But then we took it to the second half of this, and look, I like Johnny Gargano. I really, really do. But I feel that Johnny did not add anything to this whole entire. Honestly, I would have loved if a John Cena popped in, because remember, John Cena was the one who kind of helped Trick get started on this when did you know it was your time kind of thing way back earlier in the summer. Like, that's when I like, if John Cena had popped up really quick to talk about Trick, I've been like, okay, I could get down with this. But no, Johnny, I love you, but you are not the right person to talk about this, about, being underneath all this pressure. I was just like, it could have been Cena. If I'm going to be Cody Rhodes would have been a better option too. Like, honestly, who else on the main roster could have been? Shoot, if you were gonna have a Finn Balor would have been great too. Like, people who know this, not to say Johnny isn't great at what he does, and I love Johnny Gargano, I love Mr. Indie Wrestling himself, but this did not add to anything that we were getting in this main event.
Yeah, this was part of like my issue with how many promos we got, and they were so quick. They felt like they were just like thrown in there because we need to hype this up. There's not going to be enough hype, and then they were just throwing constant like main roster people in there to
People
just be like,
giving their predictions.
yeah, and it was just like, oh hey, we've got you, we've got some time. Let's put some extra hype. Let's put some interest in this because we'll have some of the people that people actually care about like come in here. And it just felt like we were putting these people in for no reason. And like this thing with Johnny Gargano was a great example where it was just like it made it run too long and it just didn't add anything.
Okay, so hear me out, right? If we wanted to build this up, if you couldn't get John Cena the whole entire night, if you wanted people to be talking to Trick, I feel that you should have went with my favorite trope in the DC comics and one of my favorite villains for the like DC comics when it comes to the Flash, You should have had a rogues gallery of some sort of all the people that Trick has interacted with since coming to the NXT roster. Now, that's not a lot of people, but you could have had something from Dominic Mysterio because they did fight and Trick did take that title off of Dominic at, No Mercy. Even if you couldn't be there in person, like a FaceTime call with Wes Lee, because they also went at it too, would have been fantastic as well. But you could have had a rogues gallery of all these people that Trick has interacted with, whether on his own or when he was with Mello. Shoot, having Braun Breaker talk to Trick would have been fantastic because Braun knows Carmelo very well, and they had their own interactions with each other. And Braun knows what it means to be under pressure like that. Granted that he's held that NXT Championship twice before going up to SmackDown. But, that could have happened. It didn't. We got what we got. And we move on to the other match I did not care about this evening.
No.
Baron Corbin versus Lexis King. I already stated it. The barber for Lexis King needs to be fired. His beard still looks awful, but now his hair is also falling victim to it. Somebody give that man a hairstylist.
Well, especially with the jacket he came in, he's 100% turning into Arliss Loveless from Wild Wild West.
Oh my gosh. Now I can't unsee it.
Yeah.
Good reference.
This match was just, we didn't need it.
It was Poop McKenzie. Nobody cares.
We could have had time for so many other things.
We could have had another women's match, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. Could have had a shorter show. Could have had other women's matches. Could have made other matches longer. Could have done more things. But this was, we don't know what to do with these two guys, and we need to fill in some space here, so let's just have this match happen. Yeah.
All right. Well, Lexis King wins. Baron Corbin's probably going back to main roster. I hope he gets drafted to SmackDown so we can continue to see him and Braun. Don't ignore the history Triple H, because I hate when main roster doesn't acknowledge any of the interactions that our NXT kids have in NXT, and they try to pretend that NXT doesn't exist. I'm like, you can't do that anymore.
Well, especially because they've already said during the draft that NXT is going to start coming up as a third brand, and the
people are going to get over. Yeah. Not only are the NXT kids able to get drafted to main roster, but the way that the draft rules stated, NXT also has the ability to draft main roster stars to NXT as well. It's crazy. But yeah, Lexis King wins. We move on with our lives because I don't want to talk about this. Put Baron on SmackDown, please. I want the Wolf Dogs to be on SmackDown. They're fantastic. We get our bumpers for night 2 of Spring Breakin'. So next week, we are getting a North American Championship match. Obafemi defending the title against Ivar. We are also getting our NXT Underground match, which is going to be Lola Vice versus Natalya, which I'm pretty sure is probably going to be our main event, if I'm being completely honest. And then we're also getting JC Jane versus Thea Hale, which, depending on how this match ends, I hope we extend this feud out so they can do something at Battleground, even though Battleground is all the way in June. I want JC and Thea to be able to have a one-on-one match at a pay-per-view because I feel that both of these women have earned that. Especially JC. JC has been involved in tag teams and multi-person matches on the pay-per-views, but she has yet to have a one-on-one match on a PLE. And I would love to see Thea get back into being a singles wrestler because the last time she had a singles match on a PLE was when she fought Tiffany at Great American Bash for the championship. That was all the way in July of 2023. So those are the matches that are set. I'm pretty sure we're going to get some other ones that aren't going to be announced beforehand. So fine, whatever. So then we get NXT is now doing the main roster trend where we're getting people walking into the arena with the elongated camera shot, which, look, I feel like it works on main roster, but it doesn't work as well in the Performance Center because it's a limited space. But first, we get Ilia Dragunov, and he is going to be unbreakable in this match. And then we had a small little interaction between him and Damian Priest, of all people, which I was like, okay, cool. And then Damian turned into a little creep by the end of it. It's like, how do you do it? And I was like, no, Damian. I'm not as intrigued because when he was North American champion, he was this Playboy champion, which I was like, okay, cool. But I was like, ew, Damian, you're better than this.
Yeah, it was weird.
So, and then Byron Saxton interviews Trick. I was like, okay, is somebody else going to come out and talk to Trick like what Damien did with Ilia? No, Trick just does his thing and then he walks out and then his music's hitting and Trick makes his entrance. Ilya Dragunov makes his entrance. And then we get into our main event of the evening NXT Championship match Trick Williams versus Ilya Dragunov. NXT was like, we started this match like 6 minutes before the hour is up, so we're going over at USA Network. Fuck you. We're gonna take as long as we need to. I was just like, well, damn. I was like, we got 4 minutes left until like the regular time is up. So what are we gonna do? So this match was 11 minutes. I'm kind of mad that it was only 11 minutes, and we were like spamming to try to get through everything before the time was up.
2 minutes of it was spent picture in picture too.
God, I was so mad. Don't. Ooh. I was like, this is the main event. Main events, I feel like, should not have any picture in picture because I was mad. Now, as far as the match itself, because we only got 11 minutes, I could see where they shaved some transitional parts out. I don't think it was necessarily bad. I actually really enjoyed that Trick started spamming Ilya's move. He's like, all right, I can't do this with my moves, so I got to spam his moves and try to do this. And obviously, it wasn't working. The match itself was fine. And we still got the ending we like because Ilia tries to keep Trick down. Third time's the charm. No. Trick does the trick shot, the running knee, and pins Ilia for the 1-2-3. Your winner and new NXT champion is Trick Williams. So before we talk about everything that happened afterwards, Andrew, this was a really, really short match. I was kind of a little deflated by the end of it. I was like, oh, well, I'm happy for Trick, but I wanted this to go a little bit longer.
Yeah. So the table spot was cool. Doing that kind of like twisting Uranagi off the barricade into the table. I didn't like the fact that we like let's put these stars that we've been seeing throughout the night into the audience. I was like, dude, stop. That's not the focus. Like, focus on the match that's happening. It doesn't need more than this. It was a really good match, but so are the last three matches that they had. So I felt like it was just meeting the expectations. So like maybe I'm spoiled with what these two can do, but it just felt like unnecessary. Like we didn't need this. We should have saved their encounters and just had that happen already. It was a good win for Williams, but it felt kind of obvious, which is why having like these kind of matches around the draft or other obvious like plans kind of kills some of the excitement because we all kind of knew what was going to happen.
Right.
So even when every time Ilia went for one more move, like I was just like, it's not going to be the end. It's not going to be the end. Like Trick is winning this. There's no way he's not. I respect both of them. They both looked really good, but it just felt kind of redundant and anticlimactic. Cool for Trick. I think the most exciting thing for me is what are we going to see from Trick as the champion, and what are we going to see for Ilia going up to Raw or SmackDown.
Right. Andrew, let me pose a question to you because I thought about this throughout the majority of today, too. I was kind of baffled the fact that we've got both of our main championship, the women's and the men's championship, both on the same night of Spring Breakin', which normally I don't have a problem with. However, I'm kind of intrigued by the fact that I don't know if it was because the draft is coming on Friday. So it's like, all right, we got to put both of our main champions on this first night because who knows what's going to happen by the end of this. But do you think that maybe had we swapped Trick and Ilya's match with one of the matches we're getting next week, do you think an extra week of build would have helped that big moment at the end for Trick winning, in your opinion? Or do you think you might have still felt the same?
I mean, the biggest difference would be we would have already had the draft, so it might have had me questioning things, but I don't think so because, like I said, they're both really good. We've seen really good matches from them, and it's not to say that I haven't seen people who have wrestled each other multiple times have continuously good matches. It just felt, and maybe it felt a little less than some of their other matches, so maybe that was part of it. But I do think that the reason we got both those titles is because we're going to see Lyra and Ilia drafted up to Raw or SmackDown. And so they needed to have their final match. We needed to get the title off of Ilia, and we needed to kind of have that final moment for Lyra. And I think it was also a way to use Lyra as kind of a boost for, ending the story between the three of them. I think that's why Lyra didn't take the loss, because she goes up without having lost another time in it, and it kind of sets up stuff between Tatum and Roxanne, who, the way they described Roxanne's interest in Lyra makes sense that she would now shift her target to Roxanne. So, I mean, it all makes sense in the scheme of things, but it does kind of kill some stuff because it made everything kind of obvious. And in a way, I think both of the stories they basically went one match too long. The women and the men's NXT titles, I think where we ended it with Roxanne and Lyra, great. If we were going to have anything, we should have had a grudge match between Lyra and Tatum and let that end. And then this thing with Ilia and Trick should have won. We shouldn't have had that match with Trick and Mello. Like, we should have built up to this match, and hell, make this match the cage match for the title or something. But yeah, they're both really good. They're both capable of being 10 performers, and this just wasn't a 10 performance, but it definitely was not bad. Like, I credit both of them. They're both really great wrestlers, and I thought they did a really strong job in this. But yeah, it felt like a really short, abbreviated version of what we've seen of them in the past.
Yeah. But I wanted to talk about the ending of this because it was funny because the camera that was on top of the bleachers started shaking when they went to the overhead shot, and that place was erupting. I agree. I think the match itself, it was kind of redundant in a way, but man, Trick is so over with the NXT universe, and I love Trick Williams. To see how far he's come over the last year and a half from going from a sidekick to his own hero in the story was great. I do want to also give kudos because Ilia does take the title from the ref, and the ref's like, hey, I think the ref was like, hey, Ilia, what are you doing? This wasn't in the script, but Ilia took it and he gave the title to Trick himself and gave them the hug and everything. I'm like, Ilia's just a good dude, man. Like, I've never heard a bad thing about him in any of the wrestling media or from other wrestlers. He's just a good dude. And he lets Trick have his moment. Trick celebrates with the NXT audience, and that is how week 1 of Spring Breakin goes off the air with Trick Williams, your new NXT champion. And we are now in this 3.0 era of NXT with Trick Williams being the face of NXT for the foreseeable future, along with Roxanne as your face for the women's division. So, Andrew, now that we got into the end of week 1, with the beginning to end and everything we talked about, what do you give week 1 of NXT Spring Breakin?
I am really torn here. I give it a 7, but there's a part of me that wants to give it a 6. There were so many promos. 2/3 of the night were promos. We had 13 promos and 6 matches. They need to stop trying to build up on the night and actually build up in like lead ups to the stories. They need to tell better long-term stories and stop feeling like you have to review everything to build the hype. Just use the promos better, not more often. Maybe if we didn't get so many promos, they could have used the commercial breaks better to not interrupt the matches that we did get, because nothing ever really felt like it got off to a strong start or it had its momentum kind of shut down. We didn't need the 2 matches that were thrown together. They didn't do anything for anyone involved. It stopped Fallon's momentum. She was on a nice roll going into this, and now she's lost. It didn't transfer that momentum to Jada. I don't know what we're going to get out of Corbin and King, but it's not going to be as exciting as what we had from them with Corbin and Braun as the Wolf Dogs. So it didn't really do anything for anybody involved. There was too much fluff and like special appearances that just made it feel bloated. And it was, the best way I can describe it, was like putting too much sugar or spice into a dish. Just cook a good meal. And that's what I want to see out of these wrestling shows. Like, stop trying to make it feel special and just make it good. Then it will be special. And part of this, maybe it's because I was so pumped, because on paper this looked like it was going to be an awesome night. I expected it to be exceptional. I got mediocre.
Damn. But no, I agree with you. So I will give my rating, and then I will read Will's statement on this week's episode. I'm going to give this a 6.5 out of 10 for me. So 6.5 empanadas out of 10. Adolfo would kill me because I'm giving half an empanada, but this is my show, Adolfo. I do how I do things here. Tell me what to do for Rampage and Collision. But I agree with you, Andrew. On paper, I was super excited because I thought this was going to be stellar. I still enjoyed a lot of the matches. I still think our opener match, minus, not giving the women their entrances, was kind of rude. I thought that was, for me, the best match of the entire evening from start to finish because, again, those three women killed it. It was a lot of fun. Tatum kind of was the star of that match, and this was like her big breakout moment for me, which was super cool to watch. There are way too many promos that did not lead to anything or build up to anything. The only thing I was excited about was the short vignette that we got of Tyreek and Tyson debuting next week, so I'm excited for that tag team. I was like, we here for the big boys. But there was just a lot of fluff in between all the matches that I know we're trying to set up for what's coming next after Spring Breakin', but man, we didn't need a lot of these, and I know that the looming draft is what I'm assuming probably hindered a lot of NXT from doing anything too crazy because we don't know where we don't know where the NXT kids are going to land, and we don't know where some of the main roster stars are going to land if they get drafted to NXT. So I give this a 6.5. And then finally, I am here by decree of our lawyer that I read the statement prepared by Will for this evening. It was a decent episode. Had its rough spots, but overall, I didn't think it was too bad. I'm glad that the Trick story arc has found its happy ending for the moment. I was very surprised that Blair lost. I'm like, us too, Will, honestly. The opening match was fun to watch. Corbin and King was unnecessary. Figured the family would win their match, which I was fine with because I cannot stand No Quarter Catch Crew or whatever the hell they are calling themselves. He gives this a 7 out of 10 empanadas. So we're all within that relatively same page. Not a bad episode of NXT, but it could have been a lot better with a lot of overhaul. Yeah, so Andrew, that brings us to the end of this week's episode of NXT. So next week, we will be covering week 2 of Spring Breakin'. So Andrew's going to be tagging out, unfortunately, but Will be tagging in. Or if not, you will see my lovely face be reviewing week 2 by myself. But no, Will should be here. So Andrew's tagging out, Will's tagging in. So next week, it is going to be myself and Will covering week 2 of Spring Breakin'. But Andrew will be back the following week where we're going to start the NXT show to start building towards Battleground because we have as soon as Spring Breakin's over, we have the whole month of May to build towards Battleground, which is going to be fantastic, I hope. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the DDT Review. If you enjoy what we do here at BC WrestlePod, make sure to give us a like, a subscribe, and hit that bell notification on our YouTube channel. Follow us all over the social medias at BC WrestlePod. If you cannot watch our beautiful faces, you can listen to us on the go as we have audio podcast versions of our reviews. You can find all the episodes on your favorite podcasting network, or go ahead and go to BC WrestlePod /Transistor FM, because that is where our website for our podcasting is held, which is fantastic. And of course, in just 4 weeks, if you want to see some of us live, the East Coast Collective and myself are going to be at the New Jersey Wrestling Show Saturday, May 18th and Sunday, May 19th. We're going to be at the convention itself, but you can also say hi to us when the wrestling show Saturday night too, because we're going to be in the front row. We got front row tickets, baby. It's going to be fantastic. Also, Mike Santana, I hope you can sign short because Mike Santana is going to be there. And now that you are signed to TNA, I just want to say how much I love you in person. So I hope you get to sign my stuff. But anyways, me and Andrew are going to get up on out of here. So thank you so much for tuning into this review. Remember, us two, Will, and the rest of the BC WrestlePod boys, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, stay iconic, but more importantly, you deserve to finish your story. We'll catch you next week for week 2 of Spring Breakin'. But until then, ta-ta for now.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another Vibe Tribe production. What's gonna happen next time? Well, you're gonna have to tune in to find out. But until then, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, and as always, make sure that you keep the good times rolling. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time.